Welcome back to Thrashing Paradise on this fine Halloween evening, and today we only have the finest and most fittingest of death black metal bands from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Witchden. Witchden?
Hey, hello.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, okay, I can hear you now. Hello. Gentlemen, welcome to Thrashing Paradise. You're the first Midwestern band, right? That's what we agreed. No, yeah, that's what we agreed on.
Yep.
That's been
Northern Minnesota.
Yes, or as I like to call it, Canada's forgotten province. Minnesota.
That works. Yep, exactly.
Guys, besides that, this is the first time ever I've interviewed a band from their van, so let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to start off the questioning very simple. You are releasing your third album very soon. I heard it earlier today. It is amazing. What? Oh, you're welcome.
Today.
Oh, it came out tonight?
Yep.
Halloween release.
Hey,
So
fitting. Excellent.
we're
So-
celebrating.
Excellent. So when can we expect? So it should be on all streaming platforms tomorrow?
Within the next day or so, yes.
It's on Bandcamp right now.
It's been uploaded and it'll appear on iTunes and Spotify, inbound.
Google Play, Apple.
24 to 48 hours.
Excellent. Now, what's it like to finally get out your third studio release?
Oh, it was really good. Really good.
Awesome.
We're really happy with the way this one turned out.
We spent a lot of time writing these songs and to be able to lay them down and have them represented the way we feel like we play it live. It sounds really good, and it was mastered by Adam Tucker, and all the parts are just there, and everything fits perfectly in the mix, and we're pretty proud of this one. We took our time with this one and spent a lot of time in the studio, and the layers are what kind of sets it apart from our previous releases.
It was kind of like our rebranding is why we were so excited to get this one out. Is Witchden started at a very different point musically. I came in on vocals on the second album, but it was still kind of like a mix between new vocal style and the old musical style, and so it was kind of almost a little thrown together from our end, knowing kind of how it was all played out in the end. And this is the first time we have the full lineup all on board with a new direction and a new look. Yeah, we're stoked.
Excellent. Now, what inspired the name of the album?
So that'd be me. Not exactly sure where I got like the exact name. I couldn't really tell you if I recall where it came from, but it just felt most fitting to me lyrically. With kind of how the whole album's laid out. Lyrically, the album almost plays off as more of like a DSBM, depressive, suicidal black metal album, and it's really, really dark and dismal lyrical content. And the name's just Latin for God of Nothing, and I felt like that was pretty fitting to kind of the image being put forth with all the lyrics in the album, and really went with the sound with all the songs. So yeah, I don't know.
Now, since for some of you this is your first album with the band, for the original members, or the ones that were around for the first one, what was the hardest part about this album than from the first one?
I guess I don't necessarily understand the question.
Oh, yeah, I kind of lost track of where I was going with that halfway through. Let me rephrase it. What's the biggest difference, besides the musical style, from the first album to this one?
Well, I think we've grown and we've learned a lot about ourselves and how to play with each other and how to write with each other. And we have an established dynamic now that allows us to take ideas and kind of throw them into a cauldron, if you will. And we blend well together, and we mix and we help each other, and the end result is always a collective effort,
Kind of more, it's like we've matured.
Yeah, it was fun exploring different territories.
I mean, with us starting as a stoner doom band, the stoner metal aspect was very prevalent in consulting the phones. And that
the vocals as well.
right. So I mean the heady groove is still there. So there's still some that root, that core of Witchden is still the sludgy, heady riffs, and I feel like that still speaks on this album.
Excellent. Now, what was the hardest part about creating this album?
Actually, once
Picking
One-
the results, I guess.
Man, it actually all
mix and
came
master.
together quick.
I think that was the hardest part.
Pretty much.
The nitpicking of the mix and master.
yeah, some of the post production stuff
And the only
wasn't
part
the
of it,
smoothest, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it was the fact that we had this amazing thing on our hands that we wanted to get out so badly, and we just had these, time restraints and hiccups and things that we had to get over in order to be able to get to this point, to this day that we're at now.
Writing the songs was the easy part.
Yeah, I was gonna say those songs, we knocked those out. Sometimes we'd like write 2 in a day.
Oh, wow.
We really, those really kind of flew out of us, flowed out of us.
Flued. It flew out of us.
yeah, I don't really think any part of it felt hard, really, for anything I.
The writing was easy. The recording was.
The post production was the only real spot where there's anything felt like work per se. Everything else just kind of happened.
Spending long hours in the studio with each other, all cooped up. I mean, that can be stressful at times, but
Snowstorms.
yeah.
Recorded
I actually spun out and ripped half my bumper off of my car on my way down to the studio during that whole process, and was moving sideways on ice on the freeway down an exit ramp and almost rolled. So
Wow.
we put our lives on the line to bring you this fucking album.
I got over a foot of snow that day.
I wasn't even able to be present for like the entire instrumental recording part of the process. I had planned to be there for all of it, and then my dad was in the hospital and ended up passing, and I was gone that like whole 2.5 weeks. So all in like 1 week, I rolled out of the hospital from him passing straight into studio, 3 days recording. Then we had 2 shows that weekend, and one of those shows was on his birthday. So it was all just fucking
Pretty
clusterfucks. It was rough.
Wow.
Yeah, heavy shit.
Yeah.
And the last song on the album, Finding Death, was actually wrote at his his bedside at his deathbed and everything, and it was kind of a tribute song for him. And since the show that Friday was on his birthday, I asked these guys if they could like rush this. I was the only one we hadn't really done live, didn't have well formulated, but I asked if they could make it happen. So we played it live that Friday, and stone cold sober, and I was puking and crying while screaming on stage. It was something else.
Excellent. Now, that answer just went so many different directions. I'm sorry for your loss. I just like to say that. I'm sorry. You're welcome. Now, usually when a band releases a new album, there comes a tour. Do you have any touring planned?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
We're working on pulling all the strings tight and lacing everything up and dotting our I's and crossing our T's and trying to cover all bases before we, hit our PR hard and send out stuff to. I mean, try and get on festivals and things. So
yeah, at this point, we're still, we got to get the physical release out there. We'll be setting up a show for that. From there, once we really have everything in hand, and we want to roll out some more merchandise themed to the actual album itself. And next year we're playing Stygian Rites out in the Black Hills is kind of the one travel plan we have. But outside of that, we'll see what comes together.
Excuse me. All right.
What?
Now, I didn't even hear that, so it just caught me off. I was like, huh? Okay. Now, gentlemen, I don't know how much touring you have done in the past, but have you explored the Canadian metal scene yet?
We have not.
Oh, Is that a goal to hopefully do with this new album? To dive into maybe Toronto at least?
Yeah, well, possibly. Any bookers or promoters watching this?
Depends on who wants us the most.
Yeah, right.
Indians are like our cooler cousins to the north. Of course, we want to go visit.
Great weed.
It's legal here.
Yeah.
Not here.
Oh,
Other parts of the states, but not here.
no.
Yeah.
Maybe one
Yeah.
day.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Now, I can go on about telling you about where to go in Canada and what bands to go on with, but besides that, and besides the rest of the states, where for you would be your dream destination to perform?
Oof. Everywhere.
Whacking?
Since I got into metal 10 to 15-ish years ago as a kid in my first garage band, playing a stage at Bakken has always been like the thing in my brain. Like, oh, someday that'd be sick. Play a show at Bakken. Don't know that'll happen, but it does feel like it's kind of a pretty high pedestal for any metal band to reach.
Have you boys ever considered... Oh!
Go ahead.
Have you boys ever considered doing the Vakken battle?
What is that?
Not aware of it.
Vakken battle, there is a United States one of it, where it's where a bunch of bands from across the country that it's in compete with each other, and the winner of the country gets to go to Vakken and perform in front of the live audience and compete with the top winners from other countries.
I'm aware of the contest. My only concern with it's always been, like a lot of the battle things are for different festivals, it almost feels like it boils down to a popularity contest more than really anything else, which makes sense. From a market standpoint, I get why it works out that way, but at the end of the day, it could be, whatever band, if they just have the right method to rally a ton of people around it, whether those people are necessarily even into them or not. It's a lot of different ways things like that seem to play out. So I don't know the specifics of how they run the battle or the judging or how they pick anything. That's always my concern with any battle event.
Fair enough. It's a reasonable
Sure, it's
concern.
not just like your run-of-the-mill battle bands, like high school one, but
Yeah, I'd like to think it's done more professionally.
Yeah.
Fucking fuck.
probably okay.
All right. Now, while on tour, what is the number one necessity you must do? And this is an individual question.
What is the one thing that you must do on tour?
What's the one thing that you personally feel the need to do while on tour?
I always need a shower. I always try to finagle a shower. I was going to say, I actually spent 6 weeks touring Europe with Envidiosis this year, and I second that. A fucking shower, man. That's all I want.
Try and find something decent to eat that doesn't cost very much. That's not
Yeah,
gas,
you go on tour,
not gas station food.
think you're going to eat all the beautiful cuisines of the world, and then you realize that money is the thing. It's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to another falafel stand on the corner, and that's about it.
I always enjoy trying new food or the food thing.
Just nothing but snacks up in here.
All about the snacks.
I'd say probably don't get too drunk too often.
Okay. I was just like, I'm waiting for his answer. He's in the corner somewhere. I know that. But... Hi.
He's saying hi, people. Hey.
Hi. Now, I'm assuming you all have performed multiple different shows before, either in this band or with previous projects before then. For each of you, what has been the weirdest the weirdest performance experience you've ever had?
Well,
Take it away, Adam.
We were asked to play the zombie pub crawl locally a couple weekends ago, and there was a club downtown that wasn't part of it, and they wanted to be included, so they asked the promoter to program their stage, and promoter made that stage the metal stage and booked us and Invidiosis to play a hip hop club in the middle of downtown that has a really cool layout in an actual stage, but it's just a bump and grind place. So I get a message from the promoter right before we're supposed to go on. They're telling me that management or the owner and the management is freaking out and they want to cut the bands. This is after Invidiosis had played, but before Invidiosis played, they had terrible stand-up comedians that cleared at least 200 people out of the venue. So people were intrigued by the metal, and they were starting to get into it. And there were people like dancing and moshing, and there were people who paid $60 for this huge pub crawl ticket just to see us play downtown. And 2 songs into our set, they turned the music on us.
No.
Off and
Turned us
DJs.
off and turned the DJs back on. After we had finally gotten our sound dialed in and our monitors right, we were 2 songs in, and we had some technical difficulties in the second one, so I yelled at the sound guy. And then, let's be real. And then, so we were tuning, and we had ended our second song with a bunch of energy, and a bunch of people were cheering, and then the music comes on. And the audience is confused, and we're confused. I know exactly what's going on. And it was a little bit humiliating, and couldn't have been it was the best thing that could have happened to us that night, because everybody and their mother was talking about us the next day and bashing the shit out of the Poorhouse, which is the venue was.
Repeat, the Poorhouse, Minneapolis. There you go.
They went to their Facebook page, and people were just inundating them with messages and posts and reviews.
And they got ripped a new one, and it turned into pretty much like a PR stunt on our end.
And they whoever was running their Facebook tried to issue some sort of apology, and they were like something about having the max capacity in mind is why the decision was made, and they apologized to the fans. But it was too little, way too fucking late. And
we got paid. We made lemonade. They got slayed.
We did still get paid.
Hey. Well, at least that's the bright side. You got paid.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the zombie pub crawl, so we got into our hoods and makeup a little early. We just hung out in it for a while and partied.
Oh, it's such a shit show getting down there, because it's like, so we had to get down there hours, like when the actual pub crawl started. And we
find a tiny garage in a giant ass building block.
Yeah, so it was just the sitting there for hours and hours.
All the build up to just have that shit happen.
Just 2 whole songs.
It's comical. It's comical.
I at least have the perk that I play bass in videos, so I got to do the set before this. So I did get to play 1 full set in a different band,
Double duty.
But admittedly, in videos, it's grindcore, which like you said, it was a bump and grind club. If you're in grindcore, there people were a little bit confused. But there's still
the wrong kind of grind.
People were kind of coming in from after the comedian debacle. People were really starting to get into us when we played, though.
Yeah.
Like Adam said, people were headbanging and starting to get into it and pushing each other around. House didn't care.
That is the best story I've ever heard from any of these interviews. I just gotta say that now. That is amazing.
Otherwise, sidebar, I did play. There's a place called the Garage Pod in Slovenia that I played. That's literally like, a cargo storage yard, and they just have a bunch of PA system equipment in this container. And there's this guy that has a food truck that pulls up there, and he plugs in everything through the generator on his food truck. And they just run a show outside of the pod there, and it's an illegal show every time. And the place where they let bands hole up when they're there to play the Garage Pod is also like an illegal squat in an abandoned office skyscraper. So that'd be the other weirdest show I've played.
That's neat.
That's neat.
It's nifty.
If you ever come to Southern Ontario, there's a town called Guelph, and one of their more popular metal venues is a Vietnamese restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Sick.
It is hilarious because you go in, you order food, then you see a show, and the kitchen's still open. So you see people ordering Thai food, Vietnamese food, and eating while listening to metal. It's just like, it works.
Wow.
See, look at that.
That
Oh, yeah.
sounds cool.
Huh.
I would like that very much.
I guess that'd be great.
Yeah.
Get some fun.
Fuck you.
Well,
Okay, it's now time for a more hard-hitting and thoughtful question.
Oh no.
uh-oh.
Oh, no, indeed, yes. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years? Yes, I went there. I went middle school. I met high school guidance counselor. How about you?
I don't know if you heard it, but Andy under his breath said dead. But he doesn't mean it. Oh, it's like
I was gonna let Andy jinx that.
God, you're so
it went from
impressive,
it just went from funny to sad.
Well, we were all thinking the same thing.
No, I'd say we'd be, at the very minimum, 5 to 6 more albums deep.
5 years.
Put out one a year, right?
No, that's
We
a
can do
lot.
it.
And
That's a
occasionally
lot.
EP maybe
We
instead
can
of
do it.
Don't listen to it.
Don't hold us to that.
I won't. I won't. I'll hold you to 2 or
The
3.
point is we're already continuing to write, and we're just gonna keep the ball rolling. Keep our
Another album or two, and if we're lucky, it'd be sweet to be playing some fests overseas or some shit like that. There's a lot of big sweet festivals out there for the kind of music we're playing, so it'd be great to get out there and do some of that.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question, and it's a very serious question that we ask on this channel. Every band is asked this, no matter what genre or who they are. We call it the poser question. It's to ensure that the people we are talking to are actual metalheads and are not posers.
No.
Uh-oh. The question is very simple. Who would win in the fight, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy is God.
good question.
There we go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your very important schedules to do this interview. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen at home, make sure to pick up their brand new album, Deus
Deus
No. Deus Nil.
Deus Nil?
Yeah.
Deus
Yes.
Nil on Bandcamp. It will be on all digital music platforms in the next 48 hours. Make sure to
Yep.
follow them on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, keep on thrashing.
See ya.
Thank you.